I'm Jake Peterson.
And I'm Will Schademann.
We're going to be talking about the best conference in America, and that is the Big 12. Starting with the conference tournament, as far as it goes, one of the best organized conference tournaments in the game right now in Kansas City, Missouri. And I tell you what, this is just an amazing, amazing thing to see and watch. You got a team like the Kansas Jayhawks right now starting off in the second round, and with Kelly Oubre and Perry Ellis and all those guys really playing well and coming together. Of course, Perry Ellis right now questionable with his injury. We're not exactly sure yet how much Bill Self's going to actually play him with, coming off of that knee injury. So he is expected to wear a knee brace, something to keep an eye on, work on his timing a little bit. It may affect his game overall. But I think when you look at the Big 12 from top to bottom, bar to none has the most depth in the country.
Yeah, I do agree. Like the Big 12 is probably one of the best conferences in the nation right now. They have shown really good consistency from the top down. From Kansas even down to Texas Tech. Texas Tech has beat Iowa State this year as well. And Iowa State has done a really good job this year under Fred Hoiberg. And just like what Jake mentioned, the Big 12 did an awesome job at the Sprint Center in Kansas City. They host the tournament like probably bar none, probably one of the best. And it's good to see that like the mostly Midwestern big team a conference hosts those conference tournaments so well. And my pick to win the Big 12 is probably Kansas, because Kansas has always shown consistency from the Big 12. In fact, Kansas is the Big 12. They've won 11 or 12 regular season conference regular season conference championships in a row. That's ridiculous. But Bill Self doing what Bill Self does, and he's getting good players, and he's getting consistent play from those players as well. And that's the key in order to win to win your conference tournaments. You have to be consistent, and Kansas has shown that ability to do that.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing from Kansas year in and year out is that there's good coaching, a lot of depth, and Kansas has always been good. There's always been history there at Fog Allen, especially. They can protect home court really well. But I think when you look back, Kansas got really, really lucky winning it this year. You got teams like Iowa State and Oklahoma right behind them, and a couple of those games for Iowa State and Oklahoma got beat by, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if they got swept by K-State or if they got beaten once by K-State, but either way, it's a bad loss for Oklahoma. And then you got a team like Iowa State who lost to Texas Tech. Had those things have not happened to either one of those teams, they would have been right there with Kansas, and frankly could have very easily challenged them to win the Big 12 regular season title this year. This was the year where Kansas was supposed to get dethroned, and it just didn't happen because of some things that fell right for Kansas and just didn't fall right for Oklahoma and Iowa State and Baylor. And I think this is a conference though that just has so much depth, from top to bottom. You got teams like Texas Tech, TCU, Kansas State who are on the bottom list, and they're still solid teams. I think when you look at TCU, they're like the 9 seed in the tournament. They're probably the best 9 seed in the country. There's just no two ways about it. There's a lot of talent in this conference, and a lot, just a ton of depth. It's just amazing and remarkable to see how much depth there is in this conference. And I think when you look as far as the dark horse in this conference tournament, I think there's a lot of dark horses in this tournament. I think you got to look at a team though like Oklahoma State. I don't know if you want to really sleep on them. I think this is a team that is built for deep runs in the tournament. I think you have at all, and they just create a lot of mismatches on the defensive end. They play that zone style, and it's really tough to play against. And then they also move the ball really well on the offensive side. And I like Baylor to actually win the Big 12 tourney. I think what they're doing right now, they're doing everything right. Royce O'Neal, Kenny Cherry, all those guys, they just know how throw the ball up and make the shot. You know, Taurean Prince also a very clutch shooter and a great sixth-man player. Then I think you look at teams also like Texas, who, frankly, in a normal conference would be a lock right now in the NCAA tournament. They're still trying to fight their way to get into the NCAA tournament because they've just dealt with so much tough competition week in and week out.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, like just like what Jake mentioned, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Texas, anybody could win this conference tournament this year for the Big 12. It's pretty much like an open season in Kansas City right now. It's going to be hard to know who's actually going to win that conference tournament come this weekend, but it will be interesting to see what happens as the teams start to get eliminated and starts to get like to the Final Four, Final Two. It'll be interesting to see how the conference obviously like shapes up and who will get the automatic bid for the Big 12 in the NCAA tournament. And also Iowa State is probably doing really well as well. What Jake mentioned with Niang's has done a lot better job. He's a lot more in shape this year. He lost like
25 pounds.
Yeah, 20 pounds during the off season, and he's kind of cut down on like his on his diet and like all that stuff. He's mostly just eating all meat now diet. He's really not eating too much like sugars and stuff. And then also you have to look out for like Oklahoma as well. Oklahoma, even though they got beat by Creighton, and Creighton's kind of struggling right now. Lon Kruger has his boys ready. Obviously started by Buddy Hield, who's probably one of the clutch shooters in the Big 12, who can shoot the ball like nobody. And you also have an Isaiah Cousins, who can provide a good lift for the Sooners as well. And you also have Tayshaun Thomas and Ryan Spangler in the post for the Sooners, who provide a really good inside game for Lon Kruger, and so and they help Buddy Hield get open because they make so much racket in the post. It pretty much is like pick your poison with this team. It's either leave Buddy Hield open, he'll drain the three on him, or it's either double team the post and they'll pick the bones.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma is a team too that, you know, something that they can do, and they remind you in a lot of ways, at least, of how they do it. Not necessarily the way they run their offense and everything, but of how they do it. They remind you a lot of Iowa State. I mean, they just like to beat you inside and out. They like to spread the floor. You know, I don't think they can do it to the extent like Iowa State can, but I think they can do it to a degree to where moving the ball well and shooting the ball well is definitely something they can do. You know, I think they, Ryan Spangler and Tayshaun Thomas down low, the more than anything what they do is they give you second chance scoring, and that's something that obviously you need on a team like Oklahoma, who does nothing but shoot the ball practically. And then you got Isaiah Cousins, Buddy Hield, and then perhaps Frank Booker up top, and that's something that I think Oklahoma has really done well this year, especially with under Lon Kruger, with these with Tayshaun Thomas especially, who's fitted really well with the Oklahoma program this year. Something they're just doing really well though is rebounding and giving their team second opportunities on the offensive side. So, but it is interesting though to see how Oklahoma manages the game. They seem to give up a lot of times. They don't, but they just seem to. They just can't quite, put together a whole game. And that's something that obviously is going to need to be fixed heading into the NCAA tournament. But the way I look at the Big 12, though, I think there's 3 or 4 teams that have actually a legitimate shot at going to the Final Four. I think you got Kansas, Iowa State, Baylor, maybe even Oklahoma. I think all 4 of those teams could have a very good chance of going to the Final Four. The question is just what are their matchups, what region they end up in, and those all will answer for itself and all will play out for itself. And I think that'll be something to watch for. I think Kansas, obviously if Perry Ellis can get back and healthy, I think Kansas probably has the best chance to do that. But then I think you also have to look at a team like Iowa State, who has the Big 12 defensive player on their side in Jamil McKay, and then you also have Naz Long, a very clutch shooter, as we all know, and then Monte Morris, the best point guard in the country. Can also give them a very good and solidified chance, and then Dustin Hogue, hard working on the board. So I think when you look at the Big 12 from top to bottom, though, no question, best conference in America. And the thing is, too, I think that makes the Big 12 better than everyone else is they can control the offensive side. They move. They're a little more creative with moving the ball, and controlling the shot clock, and that is something that I think has put the Big 12 ahead of every other conference this season.
I definitely agree. And now we will be discussing the Big Ten Conference. Like right now, I have.
Actually, no, we're doing the Big Ten conference later, so we're done. But
No, let's